Hi, I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, your guide through this transformative journey in both business and life. This is your place crafted for dreamers, doers, or anyone who has been told they can't. Get ready as we challenge those narratives together. You're tuning in live to the United Public Radio Network, airing on 105.3 and 107.7 FM in New Orleans. We are streaming on all the popular platforms every Monday at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join me for a candid and thought-provoking conversation celebrating your unique journey because you are worth it.
Hello, everyone. Happy Monday. I can't believe we're already here again. I feel like this year's just flying by, isn't it, Jasmine?
It is. And there's only a few days left until the kids are on summer break.
Yes, the countdown is on for sure. So happy Monday, everyone. I'm Brittany Ashley, your host of Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, and we're broadcasting live today on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network on 105.3 and 107.7 in New Orleans. Get ready to escape the next hour as we break norms and build dreams today with Jasmine. I'm so excited to have you on today.
Thank you, Brittany. It's so nice to be here with you today.
We've tried to reschedule a few times as some of the past listeners or even new listeners. It's been a crazy year for me for 2025. As you know, Jasmine, both kids have been sick or there's been daycare closures or like just life in itself. So I would say it's been a wild ride, 2025.
Absolutely. I think the only constant in life is change. And as much as we prepare and plan, children always have a new idea for us, and we have to switch gears and have to do so quickly and swiftly.
Yes. Well, let me introduce who you are today, Jasmine, just so everyone can kind of understand who you are and what we're going to talk about today. Everyone, this is Jasmine. She helps high-performing leaders with clarity, emotional intelligence, and impact. As an ICF certified coach and leadership facilitator, she supports leaders in balancing people, performance, and processes while keeping things grounded, practical, and real. I kind of shorten our bio because I find if I go too long, then I bore people. So
Absolutely. That was a beautiful summary. Thank you.
Maybe what we can do before we dig in too is first highlight how you began your journey and how you became a coach.
Yeah, thanks, Brittany. I have always found myself in leadership positions, naturally gravitating to working with others, working in a community, working to achieve things with people and by myself. And I've been in business and communications for over 15 years, and I love this work and found myself craving something a little bit deeper in regards to people and leadership, which is really where I found my passions to lie. And during my second maternity leave and in the middle of COVID, I took a step back to reflect on what I wanted next, what that looked like being a mom to two little girls, taking a pause from my career and knowing that when I step back into the workforce, what does that look like and what is my next move? And I remembered writing a leadership philosophy paper back in 2008. And I had explored the idea of helping others achieve happiness, whatever that looked like to them. And that idea really stuck with me, and I decided to pursue coaching. And I think it's a really great blend of my background in business, which gives me the foundation of strategy, communication, and organizational dynamics, paired with the practical and results-driven approach to leadership coaching. And ever since I started that leadership coaching journey, I haven't been able to turn back.
Amazing. I love that. And just so everyone knows what like the ICF is, because a lot of people don't know, sometimes we use abbreviations and sometimes we forget what they are. So the ICF is the International Coaching Federation, and I'm also ACC accredited as well. So it takes, I can't remember how long it took, but it's a whirlwind of a process because you have to take some kind of certification to be a business coach or a life coach, whichever avenue you really want to go down with. And they usually say at least, like for us, I think it was 60 hours of work. And then by the time you get ready for the ICF, you have to submit your training videos, log items, and everything, and then write an exam.
Yeah.
So it's a full process. And it says, I believe some people take about 2 to 6 years sometimes just to get the ACC credentials. And then you can go up from there. But overall, it's coaches that take their time to fully get trained within the International Coaching Federation. And I think it's important to kind of highlight what is a coach and what isn't a coach, because as I merge the two, because I merge consulting and coaching a little bit more together, where some people are strictly a coach. And I find like we get kind of lost between the mixes. Do you have any kind of tidbits for individuals that are like trying to figure out what is a coach and what isn't?
Yeah. And Brittany, that's such a good question, because that's something that I was trying to understand myself when I started the journey. And I think there is a lot of confusion as to what a coach is and what they aren't. And when we historically think of the term coach, we think of a sports coach, right? We think of someone telling us what to do, how to do it, how to improve. And really where I've spent a lot of my training in, and I'm sure you'll feel similarly, is in a non-directive coach approach, whereby we're not telling what someone to do, how to do it, how to do, or what to do. We're there as a thought partner and there to provide perspective and help point out strengths that someone might not see for themselves. So when I think about a coach, it's a non-directive space. When I think about consulting, I think of someone calling in an expert to share what to do, how to do it, more of a formal or a traditional coach, if you will. And it also makes me think of being a mentor, where being a mentor differs too. And as a mentor, we come in and share our experience based on a specific topic. So when I think of the term business and leadership coach, I think of it as a thought partner who is brought in to help draw that awareness in oneself to propel forward.
Yes, I love that. So if everyone's listening or watching right now, overall a coach, we really kind of work alongside you and really get you to reflect certain feelings and emotions within you and ask you curious questions to kind of pause and reevaluate something. I find in today's world, we definitely confuse the two, like I mentioned. And so how I interplay it with my business consulting is because I don't like to tell people on how to build their own business. Like I can guide them to a way. So that's like the mentoringship or some consulting pieces of like, maybe they need support with a marketing strategy. Like that's a little bit like, I can't really coach on that per se. I can and I can't. I wear many hats. So when I go through the process, I ask permission on which hat they want me to actually show up as. And sometimes I can sense that some people just need that moment of reflection and thinking too, because they need to authentically build something in alignment to them.
Yeah, that's really beautifully said. And I think when we're in that coaching space, we don't necessarily need to be an expert in any one industry. It's really our listening skills and framework and ability to call out what we're hearing, what's being said, and what's not being said when it comes to our physical posture and the way we communicate something. There are so many little nuances to how we communicate and listen with each other, and bringing in a coach is a really great way to reflect, as you said, draw that self-awareness and figure out what we want to do and how we're going to do it.
Exactly. So you're making me think of a story when we did some branding with one client, and they're just like super like, I want this. And I was like, you're saying this, but I'm hearing this. Are we sure we want to go down this avenue? Like, and I remember like it ended up taking like a longer process because they just weren't sure. And I even said to them, like, I don't want to go down the avenue of building a logo, branding pieces, documentations for you when it's not feeling in alignment. So those curious questions can help us kind of like really pull and like really reflect as well. So that's why I love the coaching hat, because it's not just like a I'm going to tell you how it goes. And I've worked with coaches in the past where I felt, I like to say, brainwashed, more or less. Like I felt like I didn't have a say in the direction of my business, didn't have a say of just direction at all. And so I kind of got engulfed in this kind of flow. And then that's kind of why I became a coach, because I realized that there's different avenues, and that person I was working with wasn't necessarily a coach. It was more of a consultant without the coaching piece to it.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think I love how you frame that by putting on a different hat. I think that's a really good way to communicate with your clients when you say, okay, I'm going to put on my coaching hat. I'm going to put on my consulting hat. And the benefit that I love about the coaching space is when we help them determine what's most important to them, and it's not being directive. Because we could sit here and tell a client to do XYZ all day long, and they might do it, they might not. But if our client is coming up with the ideas themselves and is empowered to do it themselves, they're way more likely to achieve it. They hold themselves accountable. They have us to help hold them accountable. So I really love how you shared that story where you picked up, okay, I'm not seeing that alignment, and what do we do about it?
Yes. Yeah. I thought we should talk a little bit about culture by design, because I was reading your notes and I just loved kind of what you're saying there. So do you think we can create culture by design and not by default?
Absolutely. I feel very passionate about creating a culture by design. And many workplaces operate on autopilot, and culture will just happen without much thought or intention. But the most successful teams actively shape their culture by identifying values, fostering open communication, and prioritizing engagement. And for me, this means helping leaders design environments where employees feel seen, heard, understood, and a stronger sense of purpose and buy-in. And how I like to approach, the first step is to include your team and ask them, what kind of workplace do we want to create, and what do we need from each other to thrive? So involving the employees in shaping the culture really builds that trust, alignment, and long-term success.
Yes. Yeah. I find, like you were just mentioning, like some businesses just, they lose the sight in a way of culture. And I do, like, I've seen it along the ways as we come in and we do like strategy on implementations of systems, and then they want us to support them with their team, and it's great. But like the culture there, you can see it's kind of like muffled in a way. They kind of just started the business and forgot everything else of like the policy procedures or like the SOPs. And I just feel like everybody's just barely hanging on in the state of chaos. Do you have any recommendations for businesses that feel like maybe they're not, because sometimes when you're the CEO of the business, you don't really know what's happening in behind the scenes sometimes. Do you have any kind of thoughts on that, or where businesses can ask for more support?
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you were talking about the SOPs, it just really, and the processes, it really goes back to that foundation and that framework. And I think it's really helpful if we think about the process being our foundation, thinking about our corporate values also being the foundation.
Yes.
And when we think about the importance of the values, they need to be forefront and communicated and have buy-in from your team, so that that holds everyone to that standard. And so, as you said, as a CEO, you're right, they're not often in the weeds. And so how do they understand what everyone is doing? And I think it comes down to the communication and getting involved, not being afraid to pull their sleeves up and lead by example, and really focus on, hey, how are you doing? What support do you need? What are you working on? What can I help with?
And I feel like the best leaders I've seen in my lifetime is when I worked at a company where Ryan, he's the CEO of the business, and he always was like, it was at the ferry. So at the Coho ferries, if anyone's wondering, the ferry that goes between Port Angelas. Should add more detail. When I used to work there, and I loved working with Ryan because he made a point, even though he was the CEO of the business, he wasn't necessarily always at his desk. He would come and make sure that we as a team were okay. What can we do? What can I help you with? Sometimes he'd be on the floor selling tickets. Was he the best at it? No. Sometimes he would put me behind sometimes. And I'm just telling him to just go help the guys over there. But like, that's a true leader that's just checking in and wanting to help the team and build them up and bring them down. And I think we need to see that more in culture, in corporate and not corporate. I think in all levels of aspects of it. And I was watching this documentary a podcast about been trying to like understand a little bit more of dyslexic thinking. And Carrie Griggs, I believe, I don't have my phone right in front of me, so I don't know where I just put it, so I would double check the name. But they started a university called Dyslexic Thinking, and really thinking about how we can look at dyslexic individuals and how their strengths and smart thinking. And so she actually did a podcast with Jamie Oliver, and he's having a documentary come out on dyslexic thinking as well, and how we as not just within the schools, but within organizations, to understand how people with dyslexic thinking think and tap into strength. And one of his points was, if it's not just about dyslexic individuals, neurodivergent people, but once we understand how everybody in the team work, then we can all play together and be successful. So I truly believe that, building my business, like I love to know what everybody's strength is and still understand our weaknesses. Because it's okay to have a weakness. I feel like we in society have kind of like, don't talk about your weakness because like you'll get kind of shunned or shamed or whichever. And we shouldn't be shunning or shaming. We should announce it and be proud of it, because maybe that weakness can turn into opportunity that could be a strength, or it's just our weakness, and that's fine. But if we come together as a team to coincide, we can definitely build such a great collective together moving forward.
Oh, that's so important. And it makes me think of some of the assessments. Like there's so many workplace assessments out there. There's, DISC, EQI that I do. Yeah. There's also one called SDI, and it's all about relationship theory. But it goes back to that common language that the organization can understand and learn about, where we'll learn about each other's strengths. We'll put language behind it. We'll put some more understanding. And when I think about, weaknesses, we frame them as an overdone strength. So if we are so good at something and we might do it so often because it's our strength, then it might be perceived as an overdone strength or weakness to someone else, when it's really our positive intention. For example, someone might be very reserved, or we might feel that they're being very reserved, but in actuality, their intention is to listen to everyone's thoughts and think about the process before jumping in. And so I think it's such an interesting way for leaders to use different assessments. There's free, there's paid ones, to help build that foundation of communication and understanding, and finding a common language that we can all understand. And I think that's really important when you even talk about the neurodivergent or the dyslexia. I mean, these are things that the workplace really needs to understand.
Yes, 100%. I know you talked about different assessments.
Yeah.
Is there any few of your favorite that you've seen along the way?
Yes, I really love, it's called SDI, and it's the Strength Deployment Inventory Assessment. It's all relationship based in the workplace. And I was introduced to it from Essential Impact, who I also work with. And they utilize the SDI with all of their coach training. And same with Royal Roads University. They utilize that in their executive coaching program. So that's one assessment that I really love. And I also love the EQI 2.0 assessment, and that's the emotional intelligence quotient. And that's what really got me first into coaching, because I did that assessment and I was like, this is the coolest thing ever. How we understand ourselves, how we assert ourselves, how we get along with others, and basically how effective we are in life. And when I think about emotional intelligence, it's a set of social and emotional skills that influence the way we perceive ourselves, express ourselves, and develop and maintain relationships and cope with challenges and ultimately be effective in life.
Yeah. The emotional intelligence ones, that's the one that you have to pay for, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's a paid one. And you need a certified EQI coach to go through the assessment. And that's same with the strength deployment assessment. But there are some free ones out there too. I mean, I've seen Enneagram ones.
Oh, wow.
I have a library of
I know you did.
that I've saved that I can share.
Yeah, because I think I originally was like, oh, I wanted to look at the EQ one when I first was like trying to navigate through all the different ones.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard of the other one, so I'll have to take a look at that one for sure. What's your opinion about like the Myers-Briggs ones? I'm kind of like might have opinion, but I'll listen to because I find like everybody tends to use the Myers-Briggs ones because they think, especially for like certain companies, when they're like just trying to find an employee for the first time, they're like, oh, can you take this assessment first before we do X, Y, and Z? And personally, the Myers-Briggs ones, I'm a little biased too. I'm not going to lie. Because some of the research I found, I find that it's actually, it doesn't help those who are neurodivergent. And so to me, from an ethical standpoint, I personally, from what I've done some of my research on, I don't usually recommend the Myers-Briggs ones. I actually found the Kolbe one a lot more impactful, but then again, that's the one that you have to pay for. I find the ones that are a lot more impactful in making that change in your business model and or within the corporate setting are definitely the paid testing ones.
Yes, I would agree, Brittany. And I haven't had a lot of experience with the Myers-Briggs ones. So I would love to hear your thoughts, because I haven't spent much time there, but I'm always wondering what other assessments would be helpful for my clients. And while I utilize the SDI and EQI one, I would love to know a bit more about the Myers-Briggs from your perspective.
Yeah. So every time I've ever taken that exam or been asked to do it, I've never been the same model from one week to the other. It's always constantly changed. And so I started doing some more research. So when I went over to Vancouver to do like a speaking event on like how to outsource, I like did even more research on Myers-Briggs. And I was like, okay, I feel that after some of this research, I've made my opinion that I just feel that it's not ethically sound because it's not looking at all individual perspectives. And I think it's actually quite hard for those who are neurodivergent to do those tests because it changes significantly. But other ones will actually dig into the root of who you are and your strengths a lot better than the Myers-Briggs ones per se. So from my research, I just feel that I personally am like anti on it a little bit.
Yeah. We want these assessments to be inclusive. And if they're not, that's a major red flag. So I think that's a very important note that you brought up. And with the SDI, I do know I have worked with neurodivergent individuals who have done the assessment and really appreciated it. And what I feel is different about the SDI is it focuses on our motivational values.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, and it's broken down into people, performance, and process. And we are all of these things, and we're motivated by all of these things, but just at a different level. Someone might be more motivated by performance, whereby they want to check things off their list and get things done and making sure that the end goal is achieved. Someone is motivated by people, where they want to ensure they're helping others and they're of service to others in achieving things. And then there's also the process where it's the more analytical, data-minded person who wants to make sure that the process is followed and all of the research is done. And so it's a beautiful blend of looking at what motivates us and also helps us work with our team to know that, say I'm in a meeting with our CEO who's very performance driven. I know how he prefers that I show up in the meeting where I have, an efficient outcome and a high level notes, and ultimately it makes our working relationship better. If I'm working with someone who's process driven, I want to make sure that I've shown them that I've done the research. And if I'm working with someone who's motivated by people, I want to ensure that I'm putting emotions and thoughts at the forefront.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. We're almost at halfway in time. So before I go to the next question, I'll just go into the midway. Thank you for everyone tuning in. You're listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams, and we're live on United Public Radio Network and UFO Paranormal Radio Network 105.3 and 107.7 in New Orleans. One of my questions were going to be was about kind of the emotional intelligence. Is there any kind of maybe any misconceptions that you maybe heard along the way that somebody that's kind of you've learned that it's not true?
Yeah, I think when most people think about emotions in the workplace, it's a no. Don't bring the drama. Don't bring your too many thoughts or feelings. But how I see it is that these emotions give us signals into what's important to us. And the more we know our emotions, the more we know how to be effective. The more we know if we might be triggered by something. And I think it gives us data in how we effectively work with others and understand ourselves.
Yes. Would you say, when should corporate leaders, I'm not sure if anyone can hear that. I don't know what is happening downstairs. My door keeps opening. So I'm sorry if you guys hear that.
I can't hear it, Brittany.
Are we having an earthquake?
Yeah.
Right now. What I was going to ask was, with corporate leaders, is there like a time that they should feel to have the EQ tests done? Is it kind of like the beginning, or like do we do it quarterly? Like, what is the kind of overall recommendation for anyone listening in the corporate headspace?
Yeah, I think I don't think there's any bad time to start. For example, if we want to jump into EQ and even the EQ assessment, why not do it today and learn and grow from it? And when we think about EQ, it's something that can be learned. It's different from IQ, where we're born with it and it's a fixed number. With the EQ, we can develop it. So as a leader, if we implement this assessment now, we get a good gauge of where everyone is at with their emotional intelligence, and we can do workshops, we can do coaching, we can have different events that help grow it. And as team members are at it, like I'll do with our SDI, we offer the assessment to them so they can say, hey, you know what? Welcome to the team. This is an assessment that we like to work with. We'd love to include you. See what motivates you, and then we can all work together and learn a bit more. And I mean, EQ and leadership, to me, they are hand in hand, because leadership is all about people, all about helping people thrive in environments. And the EQ really helps us understand that self-awareness, the empathy, and communication skills to work effectively. So it's never too late and it's never too early.
Yeah. I love that. Well, thank you for sharing. Do you believe, because this is always like a question that we always had in university anyways, when we did leadership class, do you think leaders are born and or more developed?
I absolutely think both. When I think about my daughters, I see such a natural leadership traits in them. And then I also know how much they can grow, because when I think about a leader who starts off younger in their career, they might have all of the technical skills, and yet when it comes to people, it's harder for them. And so they're the ones who really can utilize the developing the leadership skills. So I think you're born from it with it, and I think you can learn it.
Mm-hmm.
What do you feel?
I was just going to say, I agree.
Yeah.
I feel like I naturally was just kind of born a leader. Like my mom always got told by the teachers of like, Brittany's just a natural leader, like just follow suit. And I've just kind of seen it. And I'm constantly craving too, as a leader, of how can I lead more efficiently and how can I take more courses? I'm addicted to courses. Add everything else to the plate, because I want to make sure my team too is feeling like they're supportive, or like I just love to learn more. So, and I think that is just part of a natural leader as well, that they just really want to make sure the people are first.
Yeah, Brittany, you have such a growth mindset.
I do. I'm like, is it because I was just talking to my coach consultant. They don't like to be called a coach. That's why I said coach consultant. But they coach me so many in certain things that they don't even know. But I was just saying to them, I was like, okay, so I was thinking about another course I'm going to take. And they're like, Brittany, we need to focus on X. I'm like, I now haven't had a course since January. I'm losing sight.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, well, I think that's great. I mean, the more we learn, the more we can bring back to our teams, and the more we understand ourselves. And one thing that feel so strongly passionate about is the ability to take care of ourselves and know ourselves first. If we think about being on an airplane and in an emergency, what's the first thing they say? When that air mask falls down, they direct you to put it on yourself first before helping others. And I think that's such a great philosophy that us leaders can apply as well. Take time to understand our own strengths and our own selves before taking that to the team. So the fact that you have your growth mindset, you're taking these courses, I mean, let's arm ourselves to be the best that we can be, with the intention to help others be the best they can be.
Yes. And that's, I think too, like once you figure out too, like what your strengths are and weaknesses, and that's how you can help and ask for help from the team. And I feel like sometimes we're scared to ask for help just because sometimes, depending on how you're brought up, and or just in society, like I feel like sometimes you might look like you're weak if you ask for help. As moms, I feel like we are kind of perceived that we should be like the superhero that can do all the things, be at home / work / all the things. And I feel like sometimes we feel like an imposter when we end up asking for help, because in society we were perceived that we should be doing all these things ourselves. But going back to the old saying, it takes a community to build a village.
Yeah.
Is that right? Village takes a community, whichever.
Or it takes a village. Yes. Raising kids, it takes a village. Absolutely. A village, a community, a world, the universe, all the things. Yeah. And I think as leaders, it's very important to show vulnerability and to implement a culture of feedback where it's normal and natural. And if we can help our team effectively communicate and help them know that, hey, listen, we have this culture of feedback for the best intentions. It's not to shine a light on things that you're doing wrong. It's to shine a light on how we can do better and be better together. So I think it's that mindset shift.
Yes. Yeah. 100%. I was just thinking, I actually was watching TikTok, and it was like an HR company pretty much letting somebody else go, and they only had 90 days. Actually, Carson's coming on the show. I saw her TikTok and I liked it, and I was like, come on the show so we can talk about it. So
amazing.
about that process. And I just feel like sometimes we as some employers can do the scarcity tactic. And I just feel like that doesn't help when you're trying to get the best of the best.
No.
When you're coming from the scarcity end and trying to run the show, some people are just going to close up, and you're not going to get those people that actually are probably still in your work environment and you don't even know.
Yeah.
Like I'm definitely, I would say I'm very quiet of an individual. Like when I'm in a group setting, I like to listen and I like to assess and I like to process, and I watch every single person before I make any kind of comment. That's just naturally who I am. And sometimes I like to take it away and process again. And then before you know it, you'll probably get 600 questions from me or ideas. But sometimes I just need that extra minute to like process and reflect too, and think of a different way how to analyze it. But I'm definitely a visionary person. So once I see the picture, but I have to like reroute in the technical specs too, like my brain of like, okay, what if we do over here and here?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on like remote? Because during COVID, everybody went remote. And now some people are going back into the work setting. And I find that right now we're still in the interesting mix of remote and hybrid.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think that the culture in business or your business can't be built with either a mix of both. What is your take on that?
I do feel that anything is possible. And I think it really depends on your organization, the size of it. But I think the beautiful thing that we have seen is the ability to work remotely and have a team that spans across North America, because it allows us to find different people that we might necessarily not find within our own community. And I think the most important, one of the most important things to focus on in a hybrid community is creating that point of connection, because connection can be so lost in a virtual or remote place. So the more that we can promote connection, and it does not have to be complicated. It can be in team meetings where we have fun icebreakers and where we ask, okay, who was your biggest role model and why? And you take 10 minutes and you go around the room giving everyone the opportunity to share. Or come February, we think about Valentine's Day and kindness and Pink Shirt Day and anti-bullying, and we think, okay, where was someone kind to you, or how did you demonstrate kindness over the past week? There's just little different meaningful ways to find those opportunities to connect in a virtual space that help build that culture.
Yes. And I find like when I do public speaking on imposter syndrome, because that topic is such a big topic to a lot, and they actually end up feeling it's like 82% of individuals, at least for small businesses, and then 80% for just in whichever span you are in, will have felt like an imposter in some time of form. And so like I love to kind of like play those kind of games that make it where if you're in like the remote setting, everybody's in a room and we just kind of turn the cameras off. And then somebody says, we go through the list of questions, and when it resonates with you, you turn on the camera. And then you kind of see the people that have the same feelings that you didn't even know. So we did this actually exercise it wasn't for imposter syndrome, but it was just a general game. And we did this exercise during one of our coach practicing business consulting pieces. And it was funny because myself and another individual, we almost said, like, we had our cameras on most of the time on the answers same. And we were both surprised that both they had, and me and I, whichever, had very similar kind of like upbringings and all the things, which we would have never even expected. And that's why I always say, like, be kind to individuals, because you never know what's happening behind the scenes and or further.
Yeah. That's That's beautiful. And it makes me think about, in the coaching world, we talk a lot about this, but the iceberg, where on the top of the surface, there are, the words we say, how we say it, the actions and the behaviors, but underneath those are our motives, our beliefs, our history, our experiences, and understanding that, hey, what we see on the surface, where someone might be lashing out and they're angry or they're upset, it might be because they have a fear or they're insecure or they're triggered by something. And so not judging, I think, is so important, and staying curious. And really, I think, that activity that you're sharing, it comes down to that place of creating that psychological trust and safety, which is really the foundation of all of this.
Yes, 100%. I feel like and it doesn't have to be the kind of game that I said, there could be so many different games that you can leverage. And if you're stuck listening and you're wanting to interact a little bit more with your team culture dynamic, just ask chatbot.
Yeah.
That's quite crazy on how much you can leverage that bot. But sometimes it can give you some ideas that you never even thought of and kind of integrate it.
Oh
So
my
for
gosh.
us, I try to do, because my team specialize in so many different areas. So I'm trying to do at least quarterly meetings for us. And if anything, or at least we're also busy, so at least 3 times a year where we all come in with one set of training, and whoever wants to do that set training can come in and do it. So we keep talking about this one, but the team keeps asking imposter syndrome. So we just have to set a date, but on breaking down imposter syndrome and how to switch our mindsets, and then meta Facebook. But when you give a rollover to another team member to come in to teach versus the CEO or the leader, kind of helps see that whole playing field of everyone being okay, we're all learning together.
Yeah, absolutely. It sounds to me like a bit of a lunch and learn, where everyone can pick something that's of interest to them and come in and share. And, it can be tiresome for the CEO to have to lead all the things and create all these agendas. And so if the team can participate in it, I think that's a beautiful way to create that inclusion and buy-in from everyone and participation.
Yeah. Yes. How do you think leaders can turn employees' feedback into cultural change?
Sorry, how do you think leaders can turn feedback?
Kind of like we're just talking about. I kind of give the team permission to come, not permission, I don't like to use that word.
Yeah.
Ask them to come in to do the training, but if for me as a leader, say, how can I use that as an opportunity to kind of, I guess, take away some extra learning potentials as well?
I mean, I think it goes back to that inclusiveness that we were chatting about earlier. And we can really learn a lot from each other if we ask. I think it comes down to simply, you're right, asking. And it's so important to do. We do employee engagement surveys. They don't have to be complicated. I utilize SurveyMonkey. It's a free way to do it, but we do a check-in. How do you feel the culture is doing? What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? Which activities stood out the most? How do you feel that you're growing? I think it's we have to include our team members. We have to get that feedback. We have to design with them and shift with them as needed. It's not a fixed solution by any means.
And I want to challenge, because I feel I've seen so many quizzes my lifetime from past quote unquote people, and they just never really executed on it, right? So I kind of want to push back, there's a way of implementing but then also executing. So I feel like if you're actually wanting to take the time to create these quizzes and really learn about your team, you as a leader should take the moment to also read those and make sure that they're integrated within the culture, because there's just been so many places I've seen along the ways for my husband's work and all these things, and they make them do all these quizzes, but then they don't do anything about it. And it comes to the point where like, well, why am I doing all these quizzes and you're not like, I don't even care to do them.
Yes, you are so right. The intention to do the survey. Okay, great. The survey's done. It doesn't end there. It can't be like, okay, next. We've heard our team. You have to action on it. And another initiative that I love doing with teams is called a stay interview. And it's the opposite of an exit interview, whereby if someone's made the decision to leave, HR will often hold an exit interview. Why are you leaving? What was it? What could we have done better? Learning about the history of their decision to leave. But with the stay interview, it is the opportunity to understand our team and what's going well for them, what they're working on, what they're passionate about, what they might need some extra support on, what some of their professional and personal development goals are, and understand what that looks like, and then action on it, as you said. Understand what we're hearing from our team and taking those insights and shifting our practice, shifting our culture, doing whatever it needs to be took after listening to what the outcomes were.
And if you're just kind of, and I find sometimes we take things a little to heart. I think when you read something that you might not be fully like, oh my goodness, you just sometimes jump into that headspace. Like I want individuals to like take a moment, take a pause, reflect on why those emotions are coming up, and then go and talk to the individual, because there's a lot more. There could be a lot more build up that you don't even know, and or making sure that there's time for that space and opportunity for each person to grow.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. Emotional regulation, it's always easier said than done.
Yes. And I feel like if you're like out of control, sometimes it's important to take that pause and that reflection.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And just knowing, okay, I'm getting agitated right now. What is it that was raised that's causing that agitation? Take a minute, take a pause, hold that silence, go outside, stretch your legs.
Yeah. And I think we need to also acknowledge that it's okay to ask for that minute. I feel that we're in this state of always chaos, a state of always fast moving, a state of like, I want the answer yesterday.
Yeah.
And I get it. I'm impatient. My ADHD is like wants it 100 years ago.
Yeah.
But, I think it's also about the point of how can we just make more of a calm setting too, for everyone to have that thought process, and just being aware and just saying, I got your assessment or whichever. I just need a few minutes to review and understand it a bit more, but I definitely will come and talk to you after. So it's just having that open communication and being transparent about it.
Absolutely. And knowing that you need that and asking for it, which is so important. And to advocate for yourself, because in this world, no one's going to advocate for ourselves but ourselves. So I think the more that we can understand that, and the more we can understand our values and who we are, the better.
Yes. Yeah. And then that value assessment that you brought up too.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for anyone kind of like wanting to do value assessments on that?
Yeah. I mean, when I think about, I spend a lot of time working with my clients on understanding their own values. And it's often something that I tackle right away with leaders, is to understand their clarity on their own values. And I think actually, by looking online, Brene Brown has an amazing list of over 100 values. So even if you just Google list of values and having your clients or your team go through and pick out the values that stand out to them and do a little bit of a brainstorm on that, I think it's a really good place to start.
Yes, I love Brene Brown.
Yeah,
I was trying to get into one of her coach programs. There's a long wait list.
Cool.
Long wait list for sure.
Very cool.
Yeah. I'm already looking at the time. We have about 10 minutes left. Do you have any last minute takeaways you want to share for the listeners, viewers?
Yeah, I want to highlight the importance of putting on our own face mask first. Referencing back to that airplane. I think it's so important that we take care of ourselves, our mind, and by being mindful about our energy levels, about how we can show up to be the best versions of ourselves. And I think we really have to lead by example. And so as a leader, the best thing you can do is to know yourself, create that culture of safety, and create that culture of connection, and not be afraid with feedback, and really set the intention to be inclusive, to listen, and to be authentic.
Yes, I love that. I know. And the one thing, like, I just kind of want to draw on the inclusivity one a little bit more. I find sometimes we think we're inclusive and sometimes we're not, or we don't, or we could have asked more questions. And I think it's just being transparent and honest with the individuals, like pronouns, for example. If they go by they, them, and you maybe say she, like, it's okay if you made a mistake, because I think organically we're just kind of always, our brains just kind of always going. And if you acknowledge and just say, I'm so sorry, I didn't mean to, like, having that moment to just take a pause and reflect on it and apologize is big too. So being inclusive, I feel like we're always constantly learning on how to be inclusive. And the more we take those moments, I think it will be big shifts in organizations as well.
Oh my gosh, you're so right. I love that. And it makes me think about being curious. You have to lead with curiosity.
Yes, 100%. I can't agree more.
Yeah.
I was just looking at some of our, because we still have a few more minutes, but is there any maybe what should be one question a leader should be asking their team, but maybe isn't? We might have time for that question. So is there any questions maybe a leader might be, that they should be asking a team that they might not be?
Yeah, a question.
It's a hard one.
I love that question though. I think it's so great. I think going back to what I was just chatting about, being curious, I think it's important as a leader to ask our team how our team can be curious in their day-to-day when it comes to the workplace, because we so quickly jump to conclusions, we jump into answer. And if we lead with curiosity and ask more questions and listen deeply and involve our team, the more ownership and trust we can build.
100%. It was actually, I'm trying to remember the book that I was listening to in audio during like my we had so many books that we're supposed to read. But it was along the lines that he was like a corporate leader, and there was just one team member that they just couldn't get along. And at the end of it, they end up taking a step back and asking that individual why they just couldn't get along, or what was like kind of like holding them back. And the end of it was because that person felt like they weren't listening enough. And so they end up workshopping through that bit of like chaos, it felt like, to where they're like, now we're in like such a great, successful team.
Wow.
For them. So it goes back to kind of what you're saying, is like, be curious, ask those questions. And it's okay to like it's okay to be uncomfortable to make that comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. And what I also work for an organization called Essential Impact, when we teach leadership coaching skills to leaders. And they have this really great hashtag that says, safe, not always comfortable.
I love that.
So I think that captures what you were saying there. Absolutely safe, but not always comfortable.
Yes, absolutely. I love that. Well, thank you so much, Jasmine, for coming on today. It was so lovely to have you. I know it's been some reruns and switches on my end, so Thanks for bearing with me.
Yeah, never apologize. I completely understand, and I'm so honored to be speaking with you today and hearing, your perspective and your impact in the coaching world. And I love being on this journey with you.
Aw, well, same here. I've been watching your journey as well, and it's been such a great seeing you grow as well, and learning from you about the different programs that you're taking, because I'm just like, what else should I take?
We could chat all day about that. I actually have a few more that have come to mind now that we've ran out of time.
Yeah, you'll have to email me for sure on those so I can take a bigger deep dive onto those. But thank you for everyone for listening to Breaking Norms, Building Dreams. A big thank you to United Public Radio Network, UFO Paranormal Radio Network. And again, thank you again, Jasmine, for coming on, and to all our listeners. With that, everyone, remember your journey is unique and your worth is unquestionable. Thank you.
Thanks, Brittany.